All right, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this weekend. Not weekend, it's the first of the week, right? Monday. Goodness, starting to feel like a weekend was lingering out. But no, we are at Monday, November 6th, 2023. Not for sure why it feels like the weekend. Been a little bit lazy today. That could be why. 4.0, the latest earthquake into the New Guinea area. We did see some movement overnight here with some fives kicking off. Looks like into the area of the Indonesia Islands region. First, I want to jump on here and chat about the latest information there in Iceland as far as the earthquake activity that has been ongoing. Still seeing a little bit of activity here on the EMSC globe, but I think that these guys are only reporting stuff that is above 3.0. But according to the latest information here, news article that was updated earlier today, in the last 24 hours around the Reykjanes Peninsula, they've seen 1,300 earthquakes. That's quite a bit. A lot of earthquake activity ramping up there, of which 3 earthquakes were above M3. That's why we're only seeing limited amount here on the Earthquake 3D globe, but obviously there's a lot more. The largest magnitude was a M3.6, located this morning, and about 3 kilometers northeast of this area. Deformation data shows that uplift continues in the area, and there are indications on the GNSS observations of an increase in inflation rates since the 3rd of November. So things are continuing to swell, so to speak, down below this area. Since the start of the inflation, the uplift at the GNSS station has reached 7 centimeters. Now we can see that right here on this map. This is going to be vertical displacement. Here we are today. Well, maybe it looks like it's from yesterday, but we're looking at about 7 centimeters or so since the event back on the 3rd. Right? That's crazy. The deformation is caused by a sill-type intrusion at around 5 kilometers deep. Modeling based on data since the 27th of October indicates that the volume change associated with this inflation event has reached almost 2 times the volumes changed associated with the 4 previous inflation events at the same area between these dates right here. Inflow of magmatic fluids into the sill-type body is estimated at approximately 7, let's see here, which is about 4 times greater than the highest inflow estimated during previous inflation events here. So, obviously, additional stress is going to be taking place with the influx of magma. Therefore, we're seeing all of these earthquakes, all the inflation data here indicating to further swelling underneath this area. Here's a few of the earthquakes with magnitude over 1.5 from midnight on till November 3rd. So quite a few earthquakes there popping up. The area of interest, so far as the swelling goes, is right around here. Look at this. That's the displacement going on there. You can't tell me that's not something serious building up there. So we'll continue to watch this and report back on it. These guys are definitely putting out articles every couple days or so, and I think they'll continue to do that until we see an eruption status. The current status of the Reykjanes Peninsula area, the volcanic activity, is still at a yellow. They haven't raised it yet, but definitely once things really start popping up here, then we'll see that probably get raised. But for now, continue to see inflation across this area. That's been obviously on the uptick here for a couple weeks. We'll continue to watch that and report back on any changes that take place there across the Iceland area. Big Island of Hawaii, another area of interest in terms of volcanic activity. The latest earthquake shows a 3.7 here in the Pahala area, down there about 33 kilometers deep or so. Very typical for this area. It does have something to do with the magma underneath this area, underneath the lithosphere region. It's been an ongoing swarm in this area for quite a while, and there's been a few studies on it since the late 60s or so. We'll cover that again in another time. One earthquake out here across the seamount, 15 kilometers deep for this area. or for this earthquake. It's going to be a 2.8 well off the west coast here, the Big Island. As far as the Kilauea Volcano and Mauna Loa goes, there's not a whole lot of earthquake activity stirring up here across any volcano for now. Let me go over and check out the hazard notification system. Stand by here for a second, HVO. And this was put out today. Kilauea Daily Update shows that the volcano here on the Big Island is not erupting. The unrest there at the summit has diminished over the past several days with a decrease in seismicity in association with an intrusive event that began in early October. Unrest may continue here, folks, so we'll continue to watch that and see how it plays out. Let me double check the latest tilt meter stations out here. Gives us a good indicator of what's going on far as swelling goes. A lot less than I would say, with the Iceland volcano. Although it looks like here in the last 6 hours we've seen an uptick here. See this little train on the chart? This is a tilt meter monitoring station there around the summit region. So this is actually rather interesting because that's a pretty huge spike of swelling, so to speak. We can see it there on the 30-day chart as well. Looks like we're going to go up above what we've seen here in the past couple inflation events. So let's look at the earthquake activity real quick. I know they said it's calmed down, but it seems like every time they say that, things start kicking back up. Not even joking. One earthquake here, that's probably going to be that three-pointer that we've seen in the Pahala area, 3.7 showing up on the graph. It's going to be this earthquake right here. Prior to that, there's definitely not a whole lot of earthquake activity, but we are seeing the swelling going on, inflation data across this area of the Kilauea volcano. So we'll continue to watch that. Normally, in association with the tilt meter showing inflation, we see earthquake activity accompanying that. Turning my phone off here. We see that hand in hand with the tilt meter activity as far as inflation goes. So we should see a little bit of earthquake activity uptick throughout the day today. Be interesting to watch. One of the latest views here across the crater area or the lava lake area still shows some volcanic gases with what looks like a sharp drop off here. Notice that edge. That looks like some sinking going on within this region, leaving a sharp edge here across this area of the crater. Kind of interesting to watch. All right, let's see what else we got here for earthquake activity. Definitely a lot going on out here. Into the Pacific Northwest, a couple little earthquakes here in the Cascades near Sweet Home, Oregon, or Sweet Home, Alabama. Which one? A little bit of activity stirring up there. One earthquake outside of Mount Hood, and it looks like a handful. Maybe one earthquake here across the Mount St. Helens area. Not a whole lot showing up here. I'm kind of curious to see if they've added anything in the past couple days. Looks like one earthquake from yesterday, but that was way up north. Aside from that, a handful of smaller quakes here. And this is still an ongoing event there at Mount St. Helens. Just the last 30 days around this area, 177 earthquakes there at Mount St. Helens. One would think, hey, what's going on out there, right? Well, this apparently is just typical background earthquake activity. But at the depth there below, where the magma tends to accumulate, that's probably what we're seeing, a intrusion of magma well below the surface. But we'll continue to watch that area as well. Let's see here, Northern California, aside from this earthquake last night near the Lake Almanor area, there's really hasn't been a whole lot in Northern Cal. One earthquake here near Los Banos. I live around here, so I should know how to pronounce that. 2.4 earlier, within the last hour, it looks like. Pretty shallow earthquake. Handful of smaller quakes up and down the board here of the plate boundary. Same being said here across the San Jacinto fault zone. Not a whole lot of activity stirring up here in SoCal for now. Yellowstone, looks like we're having a little bit of activity there across Yellowstone. Is there anything showing up on the graphs? Doesn't, it doesn't look like I have it up there. Where did it go? Mount St. Helens. All right, so I'm going to have to add that back on there. Looks like I lost that somehow. I'll get it back going here in a little bit. I always like to monitor Yellowstone National Park, and it looks like we got a pretty good earthquake swarm going on there. You guys see that? about 20 earthquakes or so, various magnitudes. The largest being a 2.5, a couple 2.5s in there. Let's go double check the Yellowstone overview. Kind of curious to see what this looks like. I haven't even seen it yet. We should see it. There it is. Mostly, wow, that's a pretty good little uptick. Something we haven't seen in a little while, as far as earthquake activity goes. And again, it looks like it's centered over. Let's see here. There's a map, like Lewis Lake area. So it can be south of Yellowstone. Looks like it may be around this area, potentially right here as well. Either way, that's I would not say there's 20 earthquakes or 19. I'm just looking at that. There's a lot more than 19 earthquakes showing up here. Eventually they stop. They'll put the reporting system out. They'll put a temporary pause on it because there's so many earthquakes, and then they'll review it and then add them back on. Because there's definitely, folks, if you can count every single one of these spikes, I think even within the first line here, there's probably more than 20 earthquakes. So you can multiply that probably times who knows what. There's probably at least 100 earthquakes listed up on this map from what I can see. Because every single one of these spikes are indeed some type of smaller earthquake. So right now it looks like they're just counting. Well, they turned it off at 7 o'clock this morning. Let me see here. Since about 7 or so. The past couple hours have definitely calmed down. But yeah, we're missing a lot of earthquakes there on the USGS map. There's a good amount of earthquakes there in that area. You can see them here on this station as well. They're probably only counting these little verified red lines. But when you look at the epicenter of this area where this earthquake activity is taking place, there's definitely a lot more than 19 earthquakes there at Yellowstone. So kind of interesting here. It's been a little while since we've seen any earthquake activity there across Yellowstone in that type of fashion. Continue to watch that, and I'll add that seismograph station up here soon, right after this update. Which is weird because my last night's update didn't go out till this morning. Really weird. Took him like 9-10 hours to publish it. It was really weird. All right. Texas, Oklahoma, not a whole lot going on today. Some of this activity in Texas, most of it, I would say, is from yesterday. A couple smaller ones today. Looking at the bigger picture out here across the South American region, seen a 5.2 near the coast of central Chile, about 5 o'clock this morning or so, along the Peru-Chile Trench, just offshore of the Santiago, Chile area. It was felt by quite a few folks there with the pager system being in the yellow. A little bit of activity stirring up out here in the Atlantic, central mid-Atlantic ridge as well with a 5.5. And, of course, we got a bunch of earthquake activity at Iceland, but not going to see it up here on this USGS map. Over here across Nepal, getting some further activity here, 5.3 earlier this morning, about 2 o'clock or so. And a handful of earthquakes across the Indonesia area, mainly around the Banda Sea, with a mixed bag of earthquakes from yesterday and today with the 5.2. Pretty deep, 172 kilometers deep there in the Banda Sea. This little subduction zone area is the latest earthquake in that region. As far as the Fiji area, Tonga, Kermadec Trench, New Zealand area, not a whole lot of newer activity here. Most of this is from yesterday, leaving this area as the quiet zone here for today, because these are about ready to drop off the map. Again, most of the activity stirring up here across the areas of the Banda Sea and Indonesia Islands region. Not a whole lot going on through the Western Pacific. Alaska area, getting a handful of typical earthquakes up here. Not seeing anything out of the norm in terms of the earthquake activity. This is obviously a very active plate region here with the Pacific plate to the south, North American plate here to the north. Got the subduction zone interface that creates a lot of strain out here. This area is very capable of seeing 9-pointers. All right, let's see what else we got. Anything major going on out here that I forgot or missed? Puerto Rico area, a handful of earthquakes here. A lot of that from earlier this morning. Nothing unusual, just in the typical zones out there of Puerto Rico. All right, space weather activity. Goodness, seen quite a bit of auroras stretching out there down to, well, quite a few different states. Even seen some showing up around Missouri. And I think I even seen a couple in Arizona. That's a little low on the states, but it was a G3 storm that kicked up. Looks like current conditions right now, as far as the solar weather goes, we're dipping back down here. No, so not a whole lot of auroras kicking up currently, but this could remain unsettled over the next couple nights. So maybe watch for that. But I think we're done with the brunt of the activity. Again, if you have any cool aurora shots that you may have taken yourself, please send them to earthmastermail@gmail.com, and we'll try and get them on later this evening in the update tonight. As far as solar flare activity goes, been watching 3480. It's been a source of a couple M flares and a couple C flares. Well, today looks like that region has kind of dropped off here slightly. Not a whole lot of complexity within that area. It's amazing how fast these things can stir up, and it's amazing how fast these things die down. As far as the complexity with these sunspot cores, as far as the magnetic complexity. A big region right here, although this looks fairly stable. Either way, I think maybe a couple of these harbor some potential for some C flare activity, but this is diminishing as far as 3480 goes. Overall threat right now shows 90% chance for a C flare, M flare at 25, X flare around 5% chance. And you can see that leveling out here in the last few hours. That's a sign that the complexity that the sunspots once had here last night and yesterday are dying down and becoming stable. So we'll continue to watch that level out, pending we don't see any further uptick from those sunspot regions. So, yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on things. Potential for unsettled conditions remains, but not as what we've seen last night with the G2 and G3 class storming. Looks like leveling out here over the next couple nights. But either way, pretty cool stuff, man. I would love to see it here in Northern California, but I think I have too much light pollution out here. Thunderstorm activity across my neck of the woods here, northward into Oregon and Washington. Not a whole lot of severe weather threat. This is just general thunderstorm activity out there today. And that is from a low pressure system spinning off the Pacific Northwest coast up here. Going to bring with it a little bit of rain and whatnot. I don't think we're going to get much here in the Sacramento Valley, but there might be a chance of some sprinkles. At least we have cooler conditions. I like that. I'll put that into motion here. That's going to hang around here to the west coast for the first half of the week. And then things start to switch around slightly. Not for sure how much this high pressure is going to take part here across the west coast. It is looking like it is going to materialize. We were looking at the past couple model runs here of a massive high pressure in the center portion of the country. Now this is going to bring some well above average temperatures here for the majority of the country. I'm hoping this is going to scoot just a little bit east so we can get this low pressure that's back here a little bit closer to the California region, because these things, this high pressure likes to keep the active weather away, and I'm not a big fan of boring fair weather scenarios. All right, so we'll see how it goes, and we'll continue to watch that. I'll definitely bring up the Yellowstone Yellowstone. Let me see where we at here. Which one is it? I think it's going to be. It'd be neat if I could get Canyon to work. A lot of times these don't key up. Looks like one is though. These are weird looking. Not for sure why. And then we'll try Lake Yellowstone maybe. See if this one looks a little bit better. And then I'll sort these out. There's Lake Yellowstone Lake there as far as the seismograph stations go. But we'll definitely keep an eye on Yellowstone area. That's quite the earthquake swarm kicking up there right now. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on tonight. Have a good one.